Peter Brown of Quinnipiac Polling Institute, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, what's your guess? Is Charlie Crist going to run for Senate?
Well, that's something that, if they were giving odds in Las Vegas, my guess is they'd give slightly more likely to run for Senate than run for governor. I think the best indication that he might be is the number of people who have not running for Senate, who might otherwise run for Senate.
Like Connie Mack?
Like Connie Mack, who was doing very well in the polls among Republican primary voters when Quinnipiac tested the last time, and he has since said he's not running for Senate now. Perhaps he really does love his congressional district, but perhaps he also knows something.
You've got a new poll out that shows Crist was still very high approval rating, 66%, and you don't see much trouble in the base for him?
No, I mean, obviously there's some conservative activists around the state of Florida who think perhaps he's not quite conservative enough, but that seems to be limited just to a small number. Governor Crist's numbers are really very good. He's at 66% positive job approval. And what's really interesting is that his job approval is virtually the same among Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. There's probably no politician in America in a competitive two-party state who that is true of. That means Governor Crist has the opportunity to run for whatever office he wants and probably to win whatever office he wants in the state of Florida.
If you're a Republican in the state of Florida, though, would he be ill-serving his party by jumping to the Senate, where suddenly Democrats would have a real shot at picking up another cabinet position, at least, the governor's office? Would you rather, as a Florida Republican, see him stay put?
Well, I mean, that's something that Quinnipiac's in the business of doing poll survey, not reading minds. That's not something I can really talk about.
If Charlie Crist has his eyes on the White House at some point, what would you think makes more sense for him? Staying put as governor or running for Senate?
At this stage, probably running for Senate, because he's already been a governor. He will be considered a success as a governor given the job approval ratings. He can get elected to the Senate, presumably given his numbers. And in that case, he'll be a very tough person to beat in that seat in the future, one would think. So that if he has a long-term view of running for president, perhaps running for the Senate might be a good idea, given the fact that next term would be his last term as governor.
What do you see as the long-term political trend here in Florida, or at least the short-term political trend? I think a lot of us would have said that Florida was a red state going to the last presidential election. It wasn't. What do you see happening out there?
I think Florida is up for grabs. Clearly, up until 2008, Florida has been a conservative Republican state. 2008 was different in Florida, but it was different in a lot of places. It was different in Indiana. It was different in North Carolina. Those were states that President Obama carried that no one thought he had a chance to carry. So that a lot of 2008, it seems to me, was a product of Barack Obama's unique appeal. The question is how well he wears as president, and frankly, how events treat President Obama, so that we will begin to see just how much of an unusual factor President Obama was when we get to 2010 when he is not on the ballot.
Last question. Quinnipiac, I remember Jeb Bush saying at one point, what's Quinnipiac, or what's a Quinnipiac? What does the university get out of spending so much money? Is this basically a marketing thing to do all this polling? Universities have research missions. Some universities do nuclear physics. Some spend their focus on microbiology. Quinnipiac, among other things, is dedicated to doing research in public opinion in a variety of states on a variety of issues. Okay, Peter Brown, thanks very much. Appreciate it. My pleasure.